One of the things that you commonly have to do with data is either sort or group it. And so what I want to talk about briefly here is actually how to do that. In the previous section, one of the things that we were doing was working with a list of dictionaries. I'm actually showing the contents of those dictionaries up on the screen right now, and we'll reference that in the example. Here's the problem that I want to pose. Let's say you wanted to sort that data. Question is, what does that mean? Like if I were to come down here and say portfolio sort, keep in mind that lists have a sort method that you can apply. What does that even do? In fact, Python crashes if you try that. One of the reasons why it crashes is it just doesn't even know what you're trying to sort on. Like, are you sorting on the name, sorting on shares, on the price, on date? I mean, what are you doing? So in order to sort data, there is a built-in sort method, but you often have to help it out with a little bit of assistance. The way that that works is you need to write a little function that extracts some piece of information. Like maybe I would write a function holding name, for instance, that takes a holding and returns some specific piece of information out of it. Here's the idea of how that's going to work. If you had an entry in your portfolio, like portfolio 0, what you would do is you would apply holding name to that, and it would take that entry and then extract the piece of information. It would say, okay, AA. If you have that, what you can do is pass it to the sort function and say, okay, sort where the key is equal to holding name. And if you do that, what's going to happen is your portfolio will end up being sorted in that way. So if you say for holding and portfolio, print holding, you'll see them go now in order of the stock name. One thing that I'll point out is I actually have two different Python interpreters running here. Turns out that the order in which things get placed in a dictionary might differ between different runs of the Python interpreter. So if you're looking at that wondering, like, why does it list price, shares, name, date up above? And why is it going name, date, price, shares below? It has to do with the fact that I'm running two different Pythons. Dictionaries are sort of random. It's not something that you're supposed to worry about, but that's what's happening there. So this is how you would do a sort. If I wanted to sort on some other field, like the shares or something, I could say holding shares, and then extract that piece of information. And then what I would do is say portfolio sort key equals holding shares. And then that would give me the sort based on the number of shares. So now you see it kind of going in ascending order by shares over here on the right. So this is how you do sorting. Now, one thing that comes up with sorting is just the creation of these small little functions, like writing these functions like holding name. A lot of programmers look at that and they say, it's got to be some kind of shortcut way of doing that. Turns out that there is a shortcut, and it involves something known as the lambda operator. So another way of doing a sort is you would say portfolio sort key equals, and then you might say something like lambda holding, for instance. That would actually do the same thing as defining that little function. Turns out that the lambda operator in Python is a way of making a small sort of one expression function. Like if I were to say a is equal to lambda x 10 times x, that's a function that takes one input, multiplies it by 10. If I were to say b is equal to lambda xy, x plus y, that's a function that takes two arguments and adds it together. What I'm doing here is I'm writing a function, like a little inline function, and providing that to sort. So it's a little shortcut. You see that used a lot in the context of sorting. I mean, you can sort of write these little lambda functions, and then it will drive the sort for you in a meaningful way. This is how you do sorting. Do the sort method, maybe providing a key function using lambda like that. Turns out that that key function is actually used in a few other contexts. One of the places where you can do it is with the min and max function. So you can do things like give me the minimum of portfolio, and then you can provide a key that returns a value that defines the min. Like you could say, give me the entry with the minimum price, for instance. Then it would come back saying, well, that has the minimum price. I guess you should verify that. 32.2, that does look like the minimum. You can also use that with the max function. You can do that. Another thing that kind of enters the picture here, if you do have the data sorted, let's go ahead and sort it by name here. So let's just verify that the thing is sorted here. Okay, so we've got it sorted by name here. Another thing that somebody might want to do is group the data. Notice that we have more than one entry for IBM and Microsoft. Somebody might want to take the data, break it up into groups. There are library modules that can do that. For instance, the itertools module, this is part of the standard library, actually has a group by function. So you can say for name items in itertools group by, and then you give it the list, and then you also provide like this little key function. Okay, so what you can do is do a grouping. What's going to come back here is it will feed you kind of the common name, and then it will feed you sort of a list of items that are all common with that name. What I'm going to do is kind of iterate over that. What it'll do is it'll feed you the name and then the items in each group there. Okay, so what's happening here is you're sort of seeing it like chunk up the data, saying, okay, there's AA, there's CAT, there's GE, IBM, Microsoft. For those names, you're getting multiple entries. You can actually do some much more interesting calculations with this. Like one of the things that you could do is take the data and build dictionaries out of it. Like I could say, let's make a dictionary where you have the name, and then you're going to build a list out of items, and then you're going to pull name and items out of that group by function. This is kind of the point where your job security might actually be going up slightly here. What we're doing here is building a dictionary out of this grouping data, and now we have something where we can just do lookups. Like we can say, give me all the entries for IBM, or give me all the entries for CAT. Kind of cool. This might not be something to spring on your coworkers unless they've had a lot of coffee, but these sort of techniques very commonly used for sorting, data reductions, data grouping, and so forth.